everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Morning Brew podcast. On Tuesday, April the 22nd, we will celebrate 55 years of celebrating Earth Day. So today, over the next 30 minutes or so, we are going to learn a whole lot about why we should care about our planet Earth and what our local environmental group here in Laredo is doing to get people to become just a bit more passionate and get involved. Our guests are two amazing individuals who work for the Rio Grande International Study Center. We've got Edgar Villasenor. He's a graduate of UTSA, who is the Advocacy Campaigns Manager. And we have with us Emily Altgelt. She's a graduate of UT Austin, Assistant Project Manager of the Zacate Creek Green District Coalition. And they both spoke recently on the KGNS News Morning Show, and I invited them to come back so we can continue the conversation. It was such a good conversation that I wanted to continue talking about this. And, you know, I want to start the conversation. First of all, you guys, thank you so much for agreeing to coming on Morning Brew. I really appreciate you having the time to come back and talk about such an important topic. But I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the feelings that I've had over the past, a couple of years or even more than that. You know, I try to do my best in recycling. I try to do my best in limiting my footprint and that of my family. But, you know, sometimes I find myself challenged with the reaction that I get from some people, the rolling of the eyes, oh my gosh, Mindy, that's not going to make a difference. And I still believe that it does. And I was so happy to meet you guys and just have you on Morning Brew so we can talk about truly, what are we doing when we try to save our planet, and are we making a difference? So let's start off, Emily, with you. Let's talk a little bit about the environmental organization that both of you all are a part of. It's the Rio Grande International Study Center. You guys are located right here in Laredo, Texas. So what does your organization do?
Well, RISK's mission is to protect the river, and like Edgar was saying earlier, RISK has essentially expanded its horizons to also advocating for our air quality and for the heat. Sorry, do you want to say a little bit more?
Yeah, no. I guess I want to say that, like, the Rio Grande, they have 30 years of data, right? That they've been working on gathering information from what started off with the Rio, right? The Rio Grande, because we live right here. From there, it expanded into wildlife and into land conservation, into planting trees, into the air. So it's been I guess within those 30 years we've gotten into this level where it's just been continuously growing. And so I want to say that RISK does a little bit of everything, but they're at the forefront of environmental advocacy, especially in a city like Laredo, where there's multiple things that affect us that live here,
Absolutely. And you all hit the nail on the head. I mean, RISK has definitely evolved over the last 30 years or so. What started off as, I remember back when I started reporting the news about 20 years ago,
awesome.
I remember RISK being promoting the birding festival. Mm-hmm. And then from there, they moved into the plastic bags, and that ordinance came about. And then of course recycling became an issue also with getting plastics out of our sewer system and things like that. Now air quality is now front and center with the organization. So it definitely is an organization that's involved. And I want to talk a little bit about the mission of the organization and the efforts that you all have put into it. Both of you guys are graduates, highly educated and intelligent individuals, but you've got a big crew there as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the different folks who work there and what you all do on a day-to-day basis.
I feel like a big part of what we do is try to connect with the community. I'm fortunate enough to work with our coworkers Marisol and Ashley Garcia, and well, I guess a part of what Ashley does is mainly making kids programs, so connecting, environmental issues and how we can get children to participate. And Marisol and I, in February, we just wrapped up the Laredo Birding Festival, so that's bringing a lot of tourism here to Laredo so people can enjoy the variety of birds we have here. But I wanted to comment on something you said earlier. So I know it's really hard to get people to care, and I feel I guess for your average person who lives here, it's like, oh, like, I don't see it, so it doesn't affect me. But that's the thing, like, people, especially in Laredo, are just working and trying to survive. So it's almost like, well, I don't have time to care for that. Like, how does that pertain to me? How can I don't even have the time to get involved. But specifically because here in Laredo, it's extremely hot. We have a lot of issues with like the air quality. It is affecting the people that live here directly. So I think that's why, a part of the event that we're here to promote is bringing experts from outside of Laredo to come here, interact with the community. Like Edgar was saying, answer any questions they have, because we need to bridge that gap of, oh, I don't understand, I don't know how to get involved. Here are some people who can give you some answers. And another part of what Edgar was saying was like, how can you exercise your, civic duties? How can you get involved in council? How can you make your voice heard? Everyone who lives here has the ability to do that. They don't know how to exercise that. So that's why we're here to talk about how we're kind of going to bridge that gap through our encuentro.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really good point. I think, there are people who do care, and they'll walk a block to go throw away that plastic bottle, or they'll pick up some cardboard. I saw some sheets of paper in the trash can the other day, and I took them out of the trash can. Not that so sometimes I do dumpster dive, but only in trash cans or on the office or at my home, and I'll take it out and I'll go put it in the recycling bin. I promise I don't dumpster dive out on the streets, but just to do my part, and I know there's folks out there, but I know that there's more that we can do, or other things or that other people can do, or do the little things that just get involved as well. We're going to talk a little bit later in the show about this big event that you all are hosting coming up in the next few weeks or so, that is bringing down some very respected experts that can talk a little bit about air quality and things like that. But you brought up a really good point, Emily, in kids and youth, and really educating them and having them just grow up with the mental knowledge of, okay, this is made of plastic, I need to go take that here. This is made of cardboard because down the line I'm going to be able to, somebody's going to be able to reuse this in another way. So, Edgar, let's talk a little bit about your role there at Risk.
Yes, so when I got to Risk, I thought a lot of it was going to be hiking and kayaking, and they're doing a lot more than that. One of the first things we did was electrification. So I learned a lot about that. Like also like how it, why was that even a thing for us in electrification? Well, because it reduces emissions, right? Ultimately, and the kids are the ones that are walking, I guess, next to the school buses and things like that. So anyways, one of the things was electrification. The other thing was like land conservation, so how putting a border wall or things that would destroy the environment, how it affects us. The third thing that we focus on that I focus on is like methane. So methane, even though you don't see it here in Webb County as much as you do in like LaSalle and Carrizo Springs, but we are part of that bubble that produces a lot of methane. And again, even I'll tell you myself, before working with Risk, I didn't really understand it. Like, even if you told me, like, there's a lot of methane, I'd be like, okay, But now I'm like, oh, I see how it connects to everything, because everything connects. Like I was mentioning, like, the environment connects to public health. And so, for example, in methane, what it really does is it makes it hotter. Like to be short, besides all the other public health stuff, it makes it hotter and more riskier for people that live around it, which that's us, Besides methane, we do have another, I guess, an air quality issue, which is ethylene oxide. It's basically a chemical used to sterilize medical equipment. And we have a big facility here in Laredo, and I believe one's coming to Nuevo Laredo. So again, when you just say ethylene oxide and you mention like, dude, there's a lot of ethylene oxide there, people might not understand like what that means, So those are some of the programs that I'm working on. But my favorite one is the Urban Heat Island. So the Urban Heat Island is, I remember when I walked outside and I would see those heat waves, like, you could see them.
Yes, you do see
right?
those.
And so I wouldn't think anything of it. I'd just be like, okay, cool. You go walking, do your thing. But then I started realizing you could actually do things about it. When I started working for Risk, I was like, wait, you could like do something about it? I was like, I didn't know you could do anything about it.
Right. We thought they were just
Right.
there,
I
always
was like,
there.
that's just where I live. Too
Right.
bad. So sad, you know?
Yeah.
But working here with Risk has taught me, like, hey, like there's actually things you can do and people you can reach out to. Like many solutions, like for example, one of the main ones being trees, right? Trees absorb some of this heat. They provide shade, but it's not the only solution. There's actually like once you start getting data, which Laredo does have, by the way, because we conducted a urban heat study, partnered with the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration. We were one of 14 cities that were selected, so you know we're pretty lucky. We're the only ones in Texas that were selected, and we just got another grant to continue doing this work. But what that does is it helps us provide like actual government reports that we can then use to say, hey, it's really hot here. We need some type of shade or a cooling place. And what does that look like? That's why we do a lot of research here at Risk to see like, okay, what does that mean? What does cooling spaces mean? Like, can we ask for that? Yes, we can. We have data. You know, a lot of people in South Texas could say it's hot, and it's true, right? It is hot. Everybody can relate to those heat waves, especially heat wave. But now it's like, okay, now we have a report, you know, and now we can use that to advocate, like, you know, present it to city council or present it to the proper partners or try to ask for some types of solutions. Because then we go back to the environment and stuff. Like, it's amazing to have these parks and stuff, but if it's too hot or it's like, you know, or there's no light and things like that, like it makes it inaccessible. So that's one of the things we advocate for.
Especially here in Laredo, where our temperatures in the summer are always in the triple digits. You know, there's no getting around, you know, not hitting 100 degrees for 45 consecutive days. I mean, that's just common in our area. We're going to take a quick break. We've got to say thank you to our sponsors, of course, IBC Bank. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation, talk a little bit more about how we can get our kids involved, get them into the mind frame of, you know, just learning a little bit more about what they can do to make a difference and what all of us can do to make a difference. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the event that they have planned in the next couple of weeks or so. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Why pay a monthly fee? Free checking at IBC.
Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate that you have stuck around with us on this episode of Morning Brew. Once again, I have the pleasure of speaking here with Edgar and Emily, both with the Rio Grande International Study Center. They are pretty much an environmental group here in Laredo, Texas that concentrates on several different aspects of the environment. They've been in existence for about 30 years already. Started off concentrating on one area of the environment, and now 30 years later have expanded into so many different facets of our environment. And of course, we are tying this episode in with Earth Day. It is taking place this year on April the 22nd. It's the 55th anniversary of Earth Day. The first one started in 1970, if you can imagine that. But we're going to continue our conversation with our distinguished guest this morning. And we are going, and I wanted to talk a little bit, Edgar, about this, and Emily, about this big event that you all have put in so much effort, and it's going to just focus a lot on how we can get folks involved in caring about right here, our little Mother Earth right here. So tell us about this event.
Okay, so the event is happening on April 12th, and it's an all-day event. It's sponsored by Green Latinos and the Rio Grande International Study Center. And it's aimed at bringing the whole community and people from out of town to come and see what it's like to be in Laredo. Some people have a different idea of what it's like to be in Laredo, so we're inviting our Green Latinos is basically sponsoring a lot of the people from out of town, from our out of town networks.
Tell us a little bit about Green Latinos. I know you mentioned it on the news the other day, but who are Green Latinos?
Yes, so they're a national nonprofit. They basically work a lot on the conservation of land and environmental issues. They're a bigger scope when it comes to the environment, like they have a bigger reach, but we're very good partners with them. And so now, for the first time ever, they decided, hey, we're gonna go to Laredo. We're gonna do this encuentro. This encuentro? They've done this before, like in different cities, but it's usually, I guess, a gathering where they go and talk about like community climate stuff. And now where they're coming to Laredo, and it became more of a full day event. So starting off with a press conference in the morning at Las Palmas Nature Trail. We're gonna have like a blessing and a ground ceremony there with a press conference right along. After the morning section, we'll be shuttled back to La Posada, where we're gonna be having lunch and also having these amazing platicas with this panel. It's a very detailed panel that's focused on like three topics, like for example, the land conservation, climate and energy, and building community. And so when we bring all these people there to talk about the environment, we're gonna have a 3-hour break, like so people can go and mingle and stuff like that. Where we'll finalize with a film screening, a community film screening at the Azteca Park from 6:30 to 10. And that segment itself is gonna have a lot of things to do, including like with limited supplies, free food, free drinks, some activities for people to do. We're having some music out there, some poetry from the Border Slam and other residents that are gonna share their poetry. And we'll finalize that with a film screening by Laredo Film Society, screening the in-between. And that's kind of like what we have planned out. But all of this, again, is sponsored with Risk and Green Latinos, and they're doing this to make the connection between everybody, like the people here and the narratives that other people might have from upper North Texas, and maybe a few people from Washington, D.C. are going to be here as well.
Wow. You bring up a very good point, Edgar, because I think, Laredo has gotten a bad rap over the last 10 years or so, but, a lot of that because of the violence in our sister city in Mexico, across the border, of course, cartels, things like that. There's a lot about Laredo that's just so much more than that, and a lot of beauty behind our community that's so much more than just that. So it's breathtaking that we're going to have visitors come and learn more about our culture, who we are truly, and on top of that, our environment. I mean, there's no doubt that we are very hot here. And that is, one of the reasons why Heatwave even moved here so many years ago, because he loves the heat. So it's good that folks have opened their eyes to Laredo so that they can come down and learn more about it. So the mission then of the event on April the 12th is to not only educate the visitors coming to Laredo, but this is an opportunity for Laredoans themselves to learn more about our community, correct?
Yes, and the main thing about it all is more of a celebration as well. So we're all trying to celebrate Earth Day. The whole vibe throughout the whole event is celebratory. We're just exactly what you said. You put it in great words. These guys are, just to mention some of the networks, Green Latinos, Earthworks, Earth Justice, Commission Shift. A lot of these partners are going to go, and these guys are very educated on specific topics like we mentioned. So now we're bringing them there for them also to spend the day with Laredoans, and then also to educate the community on how it ties into the big picture. How does recycling tie into the big picture? How does heat tie into the big picture, and the air as well, all of those things.
Well, it sounds like a really great event. So what is open of that full day of event? What is open to the public? Where do we need our folks to be?
Definitely. So the whole event is open to the public, right? We would love for everyone to join us in the press conference, whether it's in the platicas or in the, at the community film screening at the end. There's a registration form on our website. So if you go to the Risk website or on our socials, we'll have the link there, where you can see the full detailed schedule and see where you want to come in. So everything is available for the community. We want the community to show up. The only one that has a I guess a cap out would be the Pláticas, only because it's at the La Posada, and the capacity is also, we have a capacity there. But go ahead and register, and we'll contact you so that we can make sure that we have all the accommodations.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Registration important, just so you can have a head count for,
Yeah.
you know, the space availability, lunch, things like that. You just need to know how many people are going to show up.
Yeah, exactly. But we do want everybody to go. So all of the events you can register online, and we'll reach out to you to confirm.
Okay. Now, for the folks who don't know where the Azteca Amphitheater Park is located, how would you explain to folks how to get there?
Yeah. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah. What is the exact address? Remind me.
For the Azteca Park, actually, it's just Azteca Park for that one.
It might be hard to find on Google, but I recommend looking up 20 Iturbide.
Okay.
And it's across the street, and you will see the playground. And like I mentioned when we saw each other yesterday, so the Azteca is one of like the most historic places.
It's the first one, I think.
I
think it's the first neighborhood in Laredo that
Yes.
was formed.
Yeah,
So-
very cultural, very historic.
Yeah, so there's the Zacate Creek, and so there's this amphitheater essentially kind of built into the hill. But what's really awesome is Laredo Film Society is partnering with us to like basically have this big like blow up projector, right? Projector screen. And we're gonna be showing a film there. So also, I guess as a part of my job, as the assistant project manager, is to also get the Azteca community residents to be involved in this. The work that we do currently, we're restoring the Las Palmas Nature Trail. So it's an opportunity for the residents to participate and help restore a part of their community. And we want them to join us in this Encuentro event at our community film screening. So yeah, it's really cool. If you've never been there before, there's also like the little Azteca waterfall. There's a whole trail down there, so it's really cool.
Another world that I'm sure so many people, including myself, have not seen. So definitely need to head on.
Need to go.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break, but stay with us. When we come back, with the few minutes that we have left, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens after April 12th. So once the event has, been successful, hopefully, fingers crossed, how you can still get involved with risk and even do things around your own home to make a difference. And then on top of that, how do we instill all of this into the young minds out there? So stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. Welcome back, everybody. Once again, appreciate you sticking around with us here on Morning Brew. We are talking about the environment. We're talking about the Rio Grande International Study Center, about Earth Day coming up with a big event that's planned for April the 12th. Earth Day is April the 22nd. But we're going to talk in the final minutes that we have with Edgar and with Emily on how we can get involved after the event. We know you're going to have a very successful event on April the 12th, but April 13th comes around, and we want to inspire people to continue getting involved, continue learning more about how small efforts in all different aspects make such a difference. And Emily, I want to start the conversation by just talking a little bit about you. I mean, you come from a family that has a voice in the community. They've been, very vocal and very active in the environment. How did your parents raise you to care about it? You're young. You just graduated from college, but you came back wanting to make a difference. So how do other families do what your family did?
I think what I always enjoyed most when I was little is that my dad always made sure that we were outside. So it's like we'd be kayaking at Lake Casablanca, or we'd like be hiking a lot, or going to visit our ranch and just enjoying nature. Also, kind of what I mentioned the other day is like I think it's important that we learn like empathy. And I know that sounds like maybe frivolous, but it's like we have a personal responsibility to each other to make sure that we take care of the earth and that we're environmentally conscious. And like, I don't know, obviously, you know, I care very deeply about my community, and I want to make sure that what we were saying earlier, we bridge this gap where people feel disconnected from environmental issues. And that's a large part of what we're gonna do, with this event. But I don't know, I guess for me, I can't help but not care. And it's amazing that we have organizations like RISC and Green Latinos that have a lot of opportunities to get involved. So if you're a person where like, oh, maybe this isn't something I wasn't taught, or I don't know how to get involved, we're here to say like, we're a team at RISC. We're always open to like accepting new people, you know, how we can share our knowledge. So I would encourage people to like not be afraid, ask questions. You know, you can get involved with us and contact us through our social medias, and yeah.
You know, and there's so many different ways to get involved, and there's different things that you can do. I think sometimes people have the perception that, you know, getting involved in an organization, an environmental organization, you know, you're going to get the label of being a tree hugger, you know, and you're going to be out there on the street, you know, with a sign and, you know, say the trees, chain yourself to a tree. That is so not true. That is so not true. Doesn't have to be at that level.
Exactly.
You know, there's so many things you can do every day, like the recycling efforts. Like, you know, maybe look into buying a hybrid vehicle. I mean, I've had 2 hybrid vehicles in my past. My son had an all-electric vehicle in his past. So, you know, why not look into it and see how much money that'll save you in the long run? And if you want to limit your footprint, you know, maybe you go down that road. But there's so many things you can do, and you don't have to be labeled, you know, a tree hugger per se. But there's so many different facets. So, Emily, you were talking about getting involved or just getting to know RISC a little bit more. Once again, for our viewers who are just hearing RISC for the first time, it's the Rio Grande International Studies Center. You guys are all over social media, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Also, I want to say, like, I think a lot of people like are just trying to survive, like day-to-day life. So it's like whatever you can give, like that is okay. Like maybe you can't be super involved in an environmental organization and dedicate a lot of time, but you know, in whatever small way you can give, that is enough. I don't think that people maybe need to commit their whole lives to it if they don't have the capacity. But, you know, I don't know, sorry, going back, whatever you're willing to give, that is okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And every little bit counts.
Yes,
Every
ma'am.
little bit counts. Edgar, any final words for us?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think our goal, like for the encuentro, is for people to leave empowered, like feeling smarter, like wow, I didn't know that, and also, I guess, with the ability to know what they can do about it. Like at least one little thing that you can do about it. Like, hey, I didn't know, like you could email this person. Like that's all you got to do. Like, okay, you know, and like she said, even in the minimal way, like liking or sharing the post that's been related to the topic that you like. You know, we were mentioning, we're in a lot of different spaces, and wherever you can help or where you want to contribute, that would help us out a lot. And the awareness, and like it starts off with awareness. I think one of the things I wanted to say is like, you don't care if you don't know it's there. So like just to finish it off with that, I was going to say that earlier.
Yeah, that's a good saying. You don't care if you're not aware.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, or something like that. I love
you
it.
refined it, yeah.
That is very cool. Well, Edgar, thank you so much. It's a pleasure speaking about this subject with you. You know, like I said, the morning show offers 3 minutes, but I really wanted to expand on this a little bit more. So I appreciate y'all coming on the Morning Brew. So thank you so much. And of course, good luck on April the 12th for the big event. Emily, it's a pleasure. You know, I'm friends with your dad. You know, we're the same age. I think he raised an incredible daughter with very good values, and I'm very proud of you. So thank you so much for coming on Morning Brew. And
for
with
having
that,
us.
that ends this episode of Morning Brew. But make sure to join us next week for another episode. Until then, like I like to say, enjoy the brew.